Hello and welcome. My husband and I recently returned from a trip to France. Every year, we try to take a vacation and we try to make these international destinations. This trip was the first time to Europe for both of us, so it was particularly special. There were a few reasons we chose France in particular over another European or international destination. First was to visit Disneyland Paris. As a lover of all things Disney and the Disney parks, we wanted to visit an international Disney park to see how it compared to the American parks and also to see how the culture was infused into the park experience. The second was to visit the beaches of Normandy. As a history buff, this was one place I've always wanted to experience and to walk the same grounds where the historic D-Day landings took place. And finally, we wanted to visit the city of Paris itself to experience the food and everything the city had to offer. In this video, I'm going to take you on a journey through our planning process and booking the trip itself. I'm hoping to share my experiences if you are planning a trip to France or to Europe, either for the first time or if you're visiting again. Before we get started, make sure you are subscribed as there's a lot to share about this trip and so you don't miss out on all of that. We had our travel dates already set several months prior to our trip because this is when we had secured time off of work. We traveled to France from March 29th through April 5th in what is called the shoulder months. When doing some initial research and talking to others who have been to Europe around that time, this was reported to be a good time to go, with the weather not being too hot or too cold and before the summer crowds hit. Although it was sunny each day we were there, it was really cold in the morning, being in the mid-40s Fahrenheit, and it got really windy throughout the day. So this made it really chilly and we did need a thick jacket. During the day, it reached the mid-60s to low 70s Fahrenheit, and it did get really nice outside, only needing a light jacket some days in the afternoon. With our destination selected, it was time to book our flight. Since I have status with United Airlines, we knew that this would be our chosen airline. Because of my frequent travels for work, we had enough miles to fly 2 people from Europe from the US. Flying on an award ticket did limit our flight options some, but it put us flying in and out of Charles de Gaulle Airport over Orly. We also had a couple options of layovers. One was about 3 hours, and the other was about 7 hours. We chose the longer 7-hour layover because we wanted to make sure we made our flight to France, as there's not many of those throughout the day, and we also wanted to make sure we had plenty of wiggle room in our schedule for any delays that we might have experienced making our connecting flight. Now, with the flight booked, we looked into booking hotels. Before we booked our hotel, we looked into when we would be at Disneyland and when we would be staying in the city of Paris itself. So I went on the Disneyland Paris website to look at my hotel options. Much like the American parks, there's a varied pricing model for buying park tickets depending on crowd level and popularity. When booking, I was looking for the days that were a bit cheaper and predictably less crowded, which played a factor into which days out of the 8 days we were in France that we were going to Disneyland. And the best days happened to fall on the first few days we were planning to travel there. So there's a lot of hotel options at Disneyland Paris. There's the official Disneyland Hotel, and there's other themed Disney hotels to choose from. We did also consider staying in Paris for our whole trip and traveling to and from Disneyland each day, but we wanted the full Disney experience. I considered a few of the official Disney hotels because of theming, lower price point, and they were, per the website, a 10-minute shuttle ride to the park. However, this was not a trip that we would be taking often, so we wanted to make the most of it and have the most immersive Disney experience we can get and make the most out of our trip. So we decided to stay at the official Disneyland Hotel. Since we saved a bit of money on the flight with booking the award ticket, we felt it would be worth it, and it was. There will be more on that experience in upcoming videos. When booking a hotel on the Disneyland Paris website or through the app, these are essentially booked as a package. So we got 4 days of park tickets with our 3-night stay, and that helped when planning the hotel booking for the rest of the trip, knowing how long we would be at Disneyland. With our first hotel booked, we then looked at where we wanted to stay when we arrived in the city of Paris after our time at Disneyland. Our first consideration was where to stay in Paris that was safe and close to the sites we wanted to see. We first looked at hotels that are in a loyalty chain that I have status with, but also looked at other hotels in Paris to compare prices and location. Many of the hotels were comparable in price, and even the hotels that were far from the city itself were not drastically lower in price. We looked at locations that would be safe to stay, especially for tourists, and mapped out the distance from a few different hotels to the sites we wanted to see, looking for a reasonable walking distance. We booked at the Holiday Inn in the Champs-Élysées area in Paris. This room was a bit smaller than we were used to, but it was a very nice hotel, and it was close to what is called the Golden Triangle in Paris. This is an area with a lot of nice shops and restaurants. It was about a 30 to 40 minute walk to much of the main attractions that we wanted to see, such as the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and the Arc de Triomphe. It was also across the street from a pharmacy and a small grocery store, which made it really convenient to grab items we needed for our room. With our hotels booked, we looked into getting to Normandy. We knew that we wanted to book a tour, but most importantly, a tour that included transportation from Paris in the morning and transportation back to Paris at the end of the day. I looked online for a tour that provided transportation and brought us to as many sites in Normandy as possible. TripAdvisor had a long-standing reputation for being a reliable travel booking site, and it provided us with a lot of tour options and a lot of reviews. A tour provided by City Wonders was one of the top-rated tours, providing transportation, brought us to many of the sites along the beach, and provided lunch and admission to one of the museums at Utah Beach. What was also nice about the booking process here is that we could reserve our spot, but did not get charged until 2 days prior to our scheduled tour, giving us time to cancel or change our plans if needed. I will link this tour below. They really did provide us with an excellent experience. As our date approached and we anticipated the long 7-hour flight from our layover at Washington Dulles Airport, a few days before our departure, we checked back to see if we could secure an upgrade to business class. Because our flight to Charles de Gaulle Airport departed at 6:30 p.m. East Coast time, this would mean an overnight flight arriving at 6:30 a.m. Paris time. So the main reason to secure a business class seat was to be able to lay flat, to get some rest, and be refreshed for the first travel day. On United, you can purchase a seat in an upgraded ticket class called a day of departure upgrade. Prices will fluctuate, but when we found 2 seats at a price we were comfortable with, we booked it. This made a big difference in allowing us to be able to get a little bit of rest before setting on our journey. It also gave us access to the Polaris Lounge at the airport, which was really nice to have for our layover. Next was transportation from Charles de Gaulle to Disneyland Paris. There were a couple of options we considered. First was the train. There is a train that takes you directly to Disney Village, but we opted for the limousine bus. There is a link on the Disneyland Paris website where you can book one-way or round trip, and it will take you directly from the terminal to each Disneyland Paris hotel. We just added this on when we made our booking, and it was just added to our total. This was nice because it was not only direct, but we did not have to worry about carting our luggage on the train or down the street. It is the best option if you are traveling with children or a lot of people, because you can just load up your luggage and it will take you directly to where you need to go. We booked this ahead of time to be ready to go when we landed, and all we had to do when we got to the terminal was wait for the bus, and we were on our way. Now that everything was booked and all set, all we had to do now was just wait impatiently for the arrival of our trip. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are subscribed and come back for videos about this exciting trip, and I will see you next time.